Okay, podcast number 2, St. Patrick's Grammar Armagh, and we are joined by my old buddy, Oisín McConville, past pupil of St. Patrick's, which is probably the reason why we're all sitting here tonight. We'll get into that. And we're also sitting beside another past pupil, Seán Cavanagh, Tyrone Gaelic footballer, just the 3 All-Irelands, and punditry, business, life from the outside seems quality, man.
Yeah, from the outside, it always does, Thomas. Plenty of challenges, but...
Sorry. It feels like you're about to tell us something here, you know? Is it really that bad?
Oh, no, it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Good. Thank you for doing this, man. I appreciate it. I know you're a big fan of this school, and the little bits and pieces that we've been in touch throughout the years, you do speak with a warmth that is authentic around this place. And I'm not saying that surprises me, but I suppose it does a little bit, because you could probably say, yeah, great school, had a great time there, and that probably ticks the box. It feels like it cuts a wee bit deeper for you.
It does, and I think most people, because I moved in primary school, I grew up in Coal Island and moved to the Moy, so I saw 2 primary schools. I also then went to St. Patrick's Academy in first to fifth year, so I saw another secondary school as well, and look, I had some good memories in the academy, but I would be lying if I said that I felt totally at home. You know, in the academy you had lots of towns, despite what Ryan Mellon says. Armagh, it doesn't have big towns, it has lots of homely, friendly people. In the academy sometimes it felt like there was a separation between Cookstown, Dungannon and Coal Island. Lots of big, and like, coming from the Moy, I think there was 2 of us that attended the academy. So moving over the road here to Armagh with a good friend of mine who's in the audience here, from the first day I walked in, Thomas, it just felt like everyone was on the same level. There was no there was a warmth, a friendliness that everyone speaks about, but you just felt like you belonged. You felt like it wasn't really school, and you know, I didn't totally, despite probably academic results. I was never someone who enjoyed going to school. I didn't. People talk about school being your best days of your life. It wasn't the best days of my life until I came to Armagh. But you know, from walking up Sandy Hill for the first time, walking in that corridor, I don't know, it's maybe something to do with the sausage rolls, not top hall at the time. I enjoyed those as well, but it just
chicken curry Tuesdays here.
There was chicken curry, but there was sausage rolls in the top break hall that were something else as well. But back whenever you could eat sausage rolls as a footballer and whatnot. But yeah, look, it didn't feel like school, to be honest. It felt somewhere where you enjoyed going, you enjoyed meeting people, and yeah, I had my best days of my life there, and I can say that authentically.
Former players going to war at a time, you know, like, you just sort of think, what was St. Pat's like at that time to be students in it when you 2 tribes were going to war? At its worst, from your point of view, I've heard this from you before. And we were chatting to Conor Gormley actually during the year as well, which was quite interesting, his take on it. At its worst, because you're right on it, you're right on it on the border there. What was the bit where you thought, like, this is too much, this is far too beyond the pale?
Look, I think the footage is here for it, but in the team huddle in 2003 in the final, and look, a lot was said in the lead up to that final about how much Tyrone-Armagh hated one another. The way I always saw the Tyrone-Armagh thing, we needed one another. We needed one. Like Armagh winning in 2002, I gave my tickets to my 2 now brothers-in-law to go to the match. I watched it in Quins, but I remember walking out of Quins and look. Certainly there was a degree of jealousy, but there also was a degree of pride. I knew a lot of the lads from school, and equally I knew even the game we had with them, or a couple of games we had in 2002, I knew we weren't far away, and I think that's where the counties find themselves right now. I think there's not an awful lot between them, but a good Armagh meant a good Tyrone. But yeah, the huddle in 2003, there's footage of me just before the game started, shaking my head and almost very emotional. And what I was saying is we just can't lose. We can't lose. I was very, like, Armagh having won in 2002, they had walked those steps in Tyrone. Obviously, we hadn't done that. I'd been told by my grandfather had been to every All-Ireland final for 50, 60 years, and he'd always said, look, Tyrone doesn't compete at that level, so it meant an awful lot, that game, and it got a wee bit claustrophobic that day, and I don't think it was a good game, and probably wasn't a good game because of the fear, but I think it set more with Tyrone, because Armagh haven't been champions in 02.
Yeah, it's interesting what he says there about, I feel maybe it's a retrospective view, but we kind of needed each other because you seem to have drove each other on. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, I think we were pushing each other on. I think 03 was unique in so many ways. It was front page and back page news, as I've said to you, lots and lots of names. And Seán said,
do you remember the Irish News did a thing?
Who's the best looking?
Who's the best looking?
Tierney won that.
But yeah, that's mad stuff. Like.
No, Seán was just saying about how claustrophobic it was, and I was going to say walking in Armagh, but I was floating about Armagh at that time. Again, it was claustrophobic because when we were growing up, I started my school life in the Abbey in Newry, so it was always Armagh down rivalry in South Armagh, and then I was sort of introduced to this when I came to St Pat's in Armagh, and then it just snowballed from there. And when both teams started to go well, it sort of drove each other on, and Kerry were good around that time as well and had some cracking players. But it was almost like they were a sideshow at that time in comparison to what was going on up here. And we pushed the boundaries and they pushed them further, and that's just the way it went for 10 years almost.
Yeah. It was the same in 05, and it probably was the peak of both teams in my opinion. Both teams were phenomenal. But I can remember after, we got out just on the right side of the semi-final, but there was a genuine feeling in our team that was it. As in, it wasn't like Kerry were there in the final, but it was like a breath of fresh air going into a final against Kerry, because we knew we'd been road tested by the best. And there was that, I do believe, ourselves and Armagh were the peak of our powers, and Kerry were nowhere to be seen. And even though Kerry even got a couple of early goals, I think maybe, or one in that final, we knew they weren't gonna live with us because of what we had come through against these lads.
Yeah. This is your former school, which I just always associated you with the Abbey at the beginning.
Look, you're probably stretching it a bit. I do feel like a bit of an imposter here, because I did spend 2 years in St Pat's Armagh. The reason why I ended up there was because Brother Ennis was over the minors that year. I had left the Abbey, gone to the Tech in Newry. I hadn't been attending every day.
What about any day?
Sort of, and he had said to me, come to Armagh, I'll make sure you get your maths GCSE. I didn't really know. I thought he meant that I'd have to study really hard when I got here, but I remember sitting the test. I think there was about 6 of us in the one room, and I got a smack in the back of the head. And he said, 1's wrong, 2's wrong, 3. So I had to go back over the test and do it again. But I eventually got a C in my maths, which allowed me to do A-levels, and they didn't go great. But and that's why I suppose the first year I was in St Pat's Armagh, I was able to play McCrory Cup football. We got to the final, we were beaten in the final. The following year I was overage, so I had no interest in school, and I didn't have anything. There was nothing to keep me there apart from my and dad, who insisted that I stay on. I actually ended up the last 6 months of 7th year boarding, believe it or not.
Up here?
Yeah.
Oh.
And which involved the drum set on a Sunday night. we had a path made out over the roof. Ironically, you won't believe this, but I was sharing a room with two lads from Belfast, and one of their fathers owned the biggest chain of bookmakers in the north.
Yeah.
So it was ironic that I should end up in that room. But that's why I'm saying,
we were hoping to say fairly nice things about St Pat's tonight. Was what we were hoping for.
Well, I have to say I enjoyed my first year there. The journey we went on with that team to get to a final, and the final was in Armagh. Brother Ennis had set the whole thing up for us just to go and win that game, and we come up short against
St Pat's. It's funny actually because you mentioned that, and we would be good friends with obviously Adrian McGuckin, and he was manager of St. Pat's at that time, but they took great offence at the fact that St. Pat's Armagh had wrangled essentially a home game in a McCrory Cup final, as he edged that towards his players to try and create that the siege mentality people talk about. But they got great motivation out of that.
Yeah,
they weren't expected to win that either.
We were expected to win that. We were after coming through some serious battles to get to where we had got to, and we were probably cocksure, to be honest. Like the team we had, that was probably one we sort of left behind us, but like the journey we had with those boys that year was incredible and stuff I always remember. As far as what I did school wise, I actually Eamon Devlin's there behind you from Cross. Was it Cross or Cullaville? Cross. I sat beside him in the study hall. He went on to be a solicitor. He's hanging out now with Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola and boys like that. And I'm doing a fucking podcast with you.
Punditry, are you enjoying it?
It's good to get to the games. But
you see the way you paused there just before you answered that? There was like a wee touch of hesitation.
Look, make no secret, it gets tougher. And look, to be honest, my kids are growing up. Thomas, of four young kids. 2 girls, 2 wee lads, and whenever, so I stopped doing night shows and things this year because look, I've got a business to run on a Monday morning and things. So yeah, no, it gets tougher when.
What do you mean tougher?
Well,
it's
tougher
unforgiving.
Because everything in life is a sacrifice. So whenever you're sacrificing time, missing under 6 and under 8 coach in the Moy. Whenever Fernanda's got runs to do with the girls, they do a lot of Irish dancing and music and different things here at St. Catherine's and Armagh as well. But yeah, look, the guilt gets you, and I don't want that to be the case. I'm very fortunate probably in my life to have a lot with business, and I've been quite fortunate in sport, so I suppose family is important for me right now, and I don't want to miss out on that.
Yeah. Do you enjoy it? I don't think I've ever actually asked you that before.
Yeah, I do enjoy it because probably not doing as much now as I did. So what did I do last year? Maybe 6-7 games with the BBC, and then obviously the stuff that we do, which is really enjoyable. I think the
sarcasm.
There's no punchline.
It's probably different now, Oisín. I don't know whether you'll maybe agree with that. As in, like, so whenever I started in 2017, and you'd have had Spillane and his Remus stats that he would have went on a solo run, and you just sort of laughed. And he was good crack, and you could have that bit of crack. I think now it's gone very formulated, as possibly maybe the word, where there is. Less sort of organic banter that you can have, and sort of there's less emotion and off the cuff crack almost. I think there's
probably a lot more prep as well than there ever has been, and there's probably more expected. I think the viewer expects a little bit more. You guys expect a little bit more as far as what we have to offer, and
I don't know about that. I think when you chat to so many different people, they come up with totally different ways. Like, the Brawley thing, for example, right? I mean, if I've chatted to my wife's 100%. That's Joe Brawley. I liked watching when Joe Brawley was on RT. Bit of crack. She's watching that for a particular reason. She's from Tyrone. She enjoys the football. She enjoys the occasion. But she's not mad into the stats and the analysis and that kind of thing. And when you're covering Gaelic games, like, to an extent, you are talking to Ireland. And what is Ireland like? I think you have to pitch it that at that normal 5/8, give a good sense of analysis, give something that might take people away, that might educate them, but also, like, do have a bit of fun. And if there's a bit of debate, like with you and Mickey Hart, you're not going to back down.
Imagine to put him on with Mickey Hart.
Yeah. There you go.
Next question.
But if it doesn't work out at RT, well, you can go to the BBC then, and that'd be good. That'd be good. But I think that debate is, like we're people at the end of the day, and you have to be able to sort of back up your view. And as long as it's authentic, if you believe that, and such and such else believes that, but let you at it.
That's a bit that I enjoyed. I do enjoy that the most, but I think it's become less and less in the last number of years. And look, there's probably a lot of viewers that are younger that love the stats and love the heat maps and the kickouts.
Yeah.
You watch Kieran Whelan every week; it's a kickout map. And by the way, I'm from a numerical background. I love stats myself. I could ream you out anything you want, but I don't particularly like it when I'm trying to read a trend in a game of football. I'll try and read who's playing well or what matchups are working for a certain team and how they can change it to influence the game. It's not, the stats to me are secondary to what you're seeing with your eyes.
Yeah, it is, and we could talk about it all day, but I just do find getting that balance, and like I'm not saying like Joe Brawley should be back working for BBC or RTE. I'm just
doing podcasts.
Huh?
Just doing podcasts.
Just doing the podcast, yeah. But I think he's definitely one way. There's other quite analytical analysis that way, and then there's this sweet spot in the middle. I think is probably where it's at. Maybe leaning slightly more towards the human and the debate end, and that's probably we try to pitch it at, but like we don't always get it right, and like time is your biggest killer, as you well know, in broadcasting. Who's going to win the All-Ireland in 2026?
I'll have to talk to Collie after this.
Yeah.
I'd say going by what I seen at the end of last year, not the whole way through the year, but at the end of last year, Kerry just look like a completely different animal, but at the same time, eradicate those 10 minutes that they played against Armagh, and like Armagh were in every way as good as any team in the country. So I think Armagh still, I know they're losing a few players, but I still think there's a freshness about Armagh. I think Tyrone will come again, but if you're ask me right now, I'd say Kerry,
yeah, it's hard to argue that. What do you think, Seán? Like, it's a silly question in a way. I appreciate we're sitting here at the end of the year.
I don't think anyone, if you had asked this question before 2024, there wouldn't be too many people said Armagh. If you had asked the question before 2025, not many would have said Kerry. So it is very hypothetical. I do think Sam's coming north a number of times in the next number of years. I think what Armagh managed last year has stoked the fires in Tyrone again. We know McGuinness isn't going to go away. Monaghan aren't kick away from it either. So, yeah, I think northern teams.
What about Derry? Just curious. I know I'm from Derry, but I'm not asking it that way. But just it feels like I am asking it that way. I'm actually not. I don't know. I just think Derry there because you rhymed off 4 or 5, and you're right too. Like the evidence absolutely suggests that. But I think Kieran Meana's in charge, well liked by the players, well got, well respected. This is not the audience to ask that question, by the way. I should never have asked that.
There's probably the feeling that maybe the ship has sailed somewhat.
Yeah. A lot of people would agree
I was
with
down that semi-final against Kerry a couple of years ago, and they should have won that day.
Yeah.
They were the better team, and yeah, look, the disruption that they've had to go through, they've probably suffered a little bit from that, but they've still got the quality. You can never write off a Derry team, but usually,
sounds like you're writing them off though.
A solid Derry team is a better Derry team. It feels like you're going back to the fractured banter Derry team, which is happy enough from a Tyrone man.
Okay, fair play from the man that stood with the Derry flag outside the Moy. When Derry coming home in 93.
Yeah, Anthony Tohill was the hero of mine, and I stood in the Moy Square and cheered Tohill and Brawley even, and was mesmerised by them all.
Excellent. Just to wrap it up, because I could go on here for a long time. Could we ever see you as a manager? Have you any interest?
Yeah, well, I did the club player manager thing for a few years, so
which is slightly different.
Slightly different, yeah, but I most certainly have an interest.
Do you?
I love, I think I have a mind that would enjoy that. Just trying to get the time, Thomas, is probably, and like I suppose I've sacrificed a huge amount of my life.
But I mean, inter-county, now I'm not saying you're going to be the next inter-county manager of a county, but just that job, I think I would like to do that at some stage.
if time allowed for it, I certainly would never rule it out. You just never know. But right now it's about trying to get a 5 and a 7-year-old, making sure their mummy doesn't stick an Armagh jersey on them, because there's been a couple knocking around the house from their cousins of leftovers. So I'm still trying to deal with that right now.
Good stuff. Look, we'll wrap it up there. Look, brilliant stuff, Seán. Continued success, happiness, managing, non-managing, whatever life may take you down that line. It's great to get a conversation with you as well. And you're going to stick on for another podcast afterwards. But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, please, round of applause for Seán and Oisín.